Welcome to Hitchhikers TV.
Yeah, boy!
Before watching this video, kindly subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button below and hit on the bell icon to be notified whenever we published a new video lesson. In this video lesson, we will explore the benefits of drinking coffee, a popular beverage around the globe that boasts a number of impressive health benefits. It could make us feel more energized, burn fat and improve physical performance. It may also lower our risk of several conditions, such as type 2 diabetes, cancer, and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. In fact, coffee may even boost longevity. If we enjoy its taste and tolerate its caffeine content, we do not hesitate to pour a cup or more throughout the day. Most types contain caffeine, a substance that may boost our mood, metabolism, and mental and physical performance. Studies have also shown that it's safe for most people when consumed in low to moderate amounts of coffee. However, high doses of caffeine may have unpleasant and even dangerous side effects. Research has shown that our genes have major influence on our tolerance to it. Some can consume much more caffeine than others without experiencing negative effects. Caffeine acts as a central nervous system stimulant. When it reaches our brain, the most noticeable effect is alertness. We feel more awake and less tired, so it's a common ingredient in medications to treat or manage drowsiness, headaches, and migraines. Studies have also found that people who drink coffee regularly have a lower risk of developing Alzheimer's and dementia, and cut suicide risk by 45%. These benefits are limited to people who drink high-octane coffee, not decaf. Some people consider coffee to be a health drink, but like most foods, overindulging can cause side effects. For example, too much caffeine can give us headaches. This is primarily linked to caffeine withdrawal. The blood vessels in our brain become used to caffeine's effects, so if we suddenly stop consuming caffeine, it can cause a headache. In digestive and excretory systems, caffeine increases the amount of acid in our stomach and may cause heartburn or upset stomach. Extra caffeine does not get stored in our body either. It's processed in the liver and exits through our urine. This is why we might have an increase in urination shortly after having caffeine. If you have experienced stomach problems, like acid reflux or ulcers, ask your doctor if it's okay for you to have caffeine. In circulatory and respiratory systems, caffeine is absorbed from our stomach. It reaches its highest levels in our bloodstream within an hour or two. Caffeine can make our blood pressure go up for a short time. This effect is thought to be attributed to either an increase in adrenaline or a temporary block on the hormones that naturally widen our arteries. In most people, there is no long-term effect on blood pressure, but if we have irregular heart rhythms, caffeine may make our heart work harder. If you have high blood pressure, hypertension, or heart-related problems, ask your doctor if caffeine is safe for you to consume. An overdose of caffeine may cause rapid or irregular heartbeat and breathing trouble. In rare cases, caffeine overdose can result in death due to convulsions or irregular heartbeat. In skeletal and muscular systems, caffeine in large amounts may interfere with absorption and metabolism of calcium. This can contribute to bone thinning, osteoporosis. If you consume too much, caffeine may cause also your muscles to twitch. If experiencing caffeine withdrawal, a symptom may include achy muscles. In reproductive system, caffeine travels within the bloodstream and crosses into the placenta. Since it's a stimulant, it can cause a baby's heart rate and metabolism to increase inside the womb. Too much caffeine can also cause slowed fetal growth and increased risk of miscarriage. In most cases, a little caffeine is safe during pregnancy. According to the Mayo Clinic, You should limit caffeine consumption between 200 and 300 milligrams per day if you're trying to get pregnant. There's some evidence that large amounts of caffeine can interfere with the estrogen production and metabolism needed to conceive, according to Chris Gunnars. Some of the beneficial effects of regular coffee are directly attributed to the caffeine, such as improved mood, reaction time, memory, and mental function, increased metabolic rate and fat burning, enhanced athletic performance, reduced risk of mild depression and suicidal thoughts in women, much lower risk of liver cirrhosis or end-stage liver damage. There's a lot of individual variability when it comes to tolerance for caffeine. For some people, 1 cup of coffee can be excessive, while others may feel fine with more. While individual tolerance may vary, healthy adults should avoid over 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. This is roughly the equivalent of 4 cups of coffee. Increased consumption can lead to increased blood pressure and lack of sleep, which can increase the risk of heart disease and stroke. Excess caffeine may also overwhelm the central nervous system, cause restlessness, anxiety, digestive problems, heart arrhythmia, or trouble sleeping in sensitive individuals. People who are very sensitive to caffeine may want to limit their intake of regular coffee or switch over to decaf or tea. Those with certain medical conditions may also require caffeine-restricted diets. This includes people who are taking prescription medications that can interact with caffeine. The health effects of coffee are controversial. Despite what you may have heard, there are plenty of good things to be said about coffee. It's high in antioxidants and linked to a reduced risk of many diseases. However, it also contains caffeine, a stimulant that can cause problems in some people and disrupt sleep. This piece could take a detailed look at coffee and its health effects, looking at both the positives and negatives. Coffee contains some essential nutrients and is extremely high in antioxidants. Coffee is rich in many of the nutrients naturally found in coffee beans. A typical 8-ounce, 240 ml, cup of coffee contains 1 vitamin B2, riboflavin 11% of the daily value vitamin B5, pantothenic acid 6% of the daily value vitamin B1, thiamine 2% of the daily value vitamin B3, niacin 2% of the daily value folate, 1% of the daily value manganese, 3% of the daily value potassium, 3% of the daily value magnesium, 2% of the daily value phosphorus, 1% of the daily value. This may not seem like a lot, but try multiplying it with the number of cups you drink per day. It can add up to a significant portion of your daily nutrient intake. But coffee really shines in its high content of antioxidants. In fact, the typical Western diet provides more antioxidants from coffee than from fruits and vegetables combined. Coffee contains a small amount of some vitamins and minerals, which add up if you drink many cups per day. It is also high in antioxidants. Coffee contains caffeine, a stimulant that can enhance brain function and boost metabolism. Caffeine is the most commonly consumed psychoactive substance in the world. Soft drinks, tea, and chocolate all contain caffeine, but coffee is the biggest source. The caffeine content of a single cup can range from 30–300 milligrams, but the average cup is somewhere around 90–100 milligrams. Caffeine is a known stimulant. In your brain, it blocks the function of an inhibitory neurotransmitter, brain hormone, called adenosine. By blocking adenosine, caffeine increases activity in your brain and releases other neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and dopamine. This reduces tiredness and makes you feel more alert. Numerous studies demonstrate that caffeine can lead to a short-term boost in brain function, improving mood, reaction time, vigilance, and general cognitive function. Caffeine can also boost metabolism by 3–11% and exercise performance by 11–12% on average. However, some of these effects are likely short-term. If you drink coffee every day, you will build up a tolerance, and with it, the effects will be less powerful. The main active compound in coffee is the stimulant caffeine. It can cause a short-term boost in energy levels, brain function, metabolic rate, and exercise performance. Coffee may protect your brain from Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Alzheimer's disease is the world's most common neurodegenerative disease and a leading cause of dementia. Studies have shown that coffee drinkers have up to a 65% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Parkinson's is the second most common neurodegenerative disease and is caused by the death of dopamine-generating neurons in the brain. Coffee drinkers have a 30–60% lower risk of Parkinson's disease. The more coffee people drink, the lower the risk. Several studies show that coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease in old age. Coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is characterized by elevated blood sugar levels due to resistance to the effects of insulin. This common disease has increased tenfold in a few decades and now affects over 300 million people. Interestingly, studies show that coffee drinkers may have a 23–67% reduced risk of developing this condition. One review of 18 studies in 457,922 people associated each daily cup of coffee with a 7% reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. Numerous studies have shown that coffee drinkers have a significantly lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Coffee drinkers have a lower risk of liver diseases. Your liver is an incredibly important organ that has hundreds of different functions in your body. It is sensitive to excess alcohol and fructose intake. The end stage of liver damage is called cirrhosis and involves most of your liver turning into scar tissue. Coffee drinkers have up to an 84% lower risk of developing cirrhosis, with the strongest effect for those who drink 4 or more cups per day. Liver cancer is also common. It is the second leading cause of cancer death worldwide. Coffee drinkers have up to a 40% lower risk of liver cancer. Coffee drinkers have a significantly lower risk of cirrhosis and liver cancer. The more coffee you drink, the lower your risk. Coffee drinkers may also have a much lower risk of depression and suicide. Depression is the world's most common mental disorder and leads to a significantly reduced quality of life. In one Harvard study from 2011, people who drank the most coffee had a 20% lower risk of becoming depressed. In one review of 3 studies, people who drank 4 or more cups of coffee per day were 53% less likely to commit suicide. Studies show that people who drink coffee have a lower risk of becoming depressed and are significantly less likely to commit suicide. Some studies show that coffee drinkers live longer. Given that coffee drinkers have a lower risk of many common, deadly diseases as well as suicide, coffee could help you live longer. Long-term research in 402,260 individuals aged 50–71 found that coffee drinkers had a much lower risk of dying over the 12–13-year study period. The sweet spot seems to be at 4–5 cups per day, with men and women having a 12% and 16% reduced risk of death respectively. Some studies demonstrate that on average coffee drinkers live longer than non-coffee drinkers. The strongest effect is seen at 4–5 cups per day. If you are sensitive to caffeine and tend to become overstimulated, you may want to avoid coffee altogether. If coffee reduces your sleep quality, try quitting coffee late in the day, such as after 2 p.m. Caffeine is an addictive substance. It can lead to tolerance and well-documented withdrawal symptoms like headaches, tiredness, and irritability. The difference between regular and decaf: some people opt for decaffeinated coffee instead of regular. To maximize the health benefits, there are some things you can do to maximize the beneficial health effects of coffee. The most important is to not add a lot of sugar to it. Another technique is to brew coffee with a paper filter. Unfiltered coffee, such as from a Turkish or French press, contains caffeine, a substance that can increase cholesterol levels. Bear in mind that some coffee drinks at cafes and franchises contain hundreds of calories and a lot of sugar. These drinks are unhealthy if consumed regularly, and make sure to not drink excessive amounts of coffee. There is also some evidence that people who metabolize caffeine slowly have an increased risk of heart attacks from drinking coffee. While it's true that roasted coffee beans contain acrylamides, a category of carcinogenic compounds, there is no evidence that the small amounts of acrylamides found in coffee cause harm. In fact, most studies suggest coffee intake has no effects on cancer risk or may even reduce it. Coffee can have important beneficial effects on health for the average person. If you don't already drink coffee, these benefits are not a compelling reason to start doing it. There are downsides as well. But if you already drink coffee and you enjoy it, the benefits appear to far outweigh the negatives. It's important to keep in mind that many of the studies referenced in this article are observational. They examined the association between coffee drinking and disease outcomes but do not prove a cause and effect. However, given that the association is strong and consistent among studies, coffee may indeed play a positive role in your health. Though it was demonized in the past, coffee is likely very healthy for most people, according to scientific evidence. If anything, coffee belongs in the same category as healthy beverages like green tea. According to the dietary guidelines for Americans, it's safe for most women to drink 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day with a maximum intake of 400 milligrams of caffeine. Caffeine content can vary depending on the type of coffee, but an average 8-ounce cup has 95 milligrams. But if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, the rules are different. Check with your obstetrician before adding caffeine into your diet. Caffeine tolerance is different for everyone. You want to do what makes you feel good. You can still get some of the potential health benefits by drinking 1 cup of coffee a day, or even by drinking decaffeinated coffee. Remember that what you add to your coffee can make a difference in how healthy the beverage really is. Instead of loading up on cream and sugar, Wisdom suggests adding up to 2 tablespoons of milk, milk substitute, or half and half, and using naturally sweet spices and flavorings. Some of the factors that make a bigger impact on your health are eating a balanced diet, exercising, and maintaining a healthy weight. Drinking coffee should just be an addition to those key health factors. Caffeine is the most popular psychoactive drug in the world. Humans have been drinking coffee, a natural source of caffeine, for centuries, but there have been mixed messages around its effect on human health for decades. Traditionally, coffee has been seen as a bad thing, says Mark Gunter, head of the section of nutrition and metabolism at the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC. Research from the 1980s and 90s concluded that people who drank coffee had a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, but it's evolved since then. Health benefits of coffee. Based on science, studies show that coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of several serious diseases. Number 1. Coffee can improve energy levels and make you smarter. Coffee can help people feel less tired and increase energy levels. That's because it contains a stimulant called caffeine, the most commonly consumed psychoactive substance in the world. After you drink coffee, the caffeine is absorbed into your bloodstream. From there, it travels to your brain. In the brain, caffeine blocks the inhibitory neurotransmitter adenosine. When this happens, the amount of other neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and dopamine increases, leading to enhanced firing of neurons. Many controlled studies in humans show that coffee improves various aspects of brain function, including memory, mood, vigilance, energy levels, reaction times, and general mental function. Caffeine blocks an inhibitory neurotransmitter in your brain, which causes a stimulant effect. This improves energy levels, mood, and various aspects of brain function. Number 2. Coffee can help you burn fat. Caffeine is found in almost every commercial fat-burning supplement, and for good reason. It's one of the few natural substances proven to aid fat burning. Several studies show that caffeine can boost your metabolic rate by 3–11%. Other studies indicate that caffeine can specifically increase fat burning by as much as 10% in obese individuals and 29% in lean people. However, it's possible that these effects diminish in long-term coffee drinkers. Several studies show that caffeine can increase fat burning and boost your metabolic rate. Number 3. Coffee can drastically improve physical performance. Caffeine stimulates your nervous system, signaling fat cells to break down body fat. But it also increases epinephrine, adrenaline, levels in your blood. This is the fight-or-flight hormone, which prepares your body for intense physical exertion. Caffeine breaks down body fat, making free fatty acids available as fuel. Given these effects, it's unsurprising that caffeine can improve physical performance by 11–12% on average. Therefore, it makes sense to have a strong cup of coffee about half an hour before you head to the gym. Caffeine can increase adrenaline levels and release fatty acids from your fat tissues. It also leads to significant improvements in physical performance. Number 4. Coffee contains essential nutrients. Many of the nutrients in coffee beans make their way into the finished brewed coffee. A single cup of coffee contains riboflavin, vitamin B2 11% of the reference daily intake, RDI. Pantothenic acid, vitamin B5 6% of the RDI. Manganese and potassium, 3% of the RDI. Magnesium and niacin, vitamin B3 2% of the RDI. Though this may not seem like a big deal, most people enjoy several cups per day, allowing these amounts to quickly add up. Coffee contains several important nutrients, including riboflavin, pantothenic acid, manganese, potassium, magnesium, and niacin. Number 5. Coffee may lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a major health problem, currently affecting millions of people worldwide. It's characterized by elevated blood sugar levels caused by insulin resistance or a reduced ability to secrete insulin. For some reason, coffee drinkers have a significantly reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. Studies observe that people who drink the most coffee have a 23–50% lower risk of getting this disease. One study showed a reduction as high as 67%. According to a large review of 18 studies in a total of 457,922 people, each daily cup of coffee was associated with a 7% reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. Several observational studies show that coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of type 2 diabetes, a serious condition that affects millions of people worldwide. Number 6. Coffee may protect you from Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Alzheimer's disease is the most common neurodegenerative disease and the leading cause of dementia worldwide. This condition usually affects people over 65, and there is no known cure. However, there are several things you can do to prevent the disease from occurring in the first place. This includes the usual suspects like eating healthy and exercising, but drinking coffee may be incredibly effective as well. Several studies show that coffee drinkers have up to a 65% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. Coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of getting Alzheimer's disease, which is a leading cause of dementia worldwide. Number 7. Coffee may lower your risk of Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is the second most common neurodegenerative condition, right behind Alzheimer's. It's caused by the death of dopamine-generating neurons in your brain. As with Alzheimer's, there is no known cure, which makes it that much more important to focus on prevention. Studies show that coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of Parkinson's disease, with a risk reduction ranging from 30–60%. In this case, the caffeine itself appears to be beneficial, as people who drink decaf don't have a lower risk of Parkinson's. Coffee drinkers have up to a 60% lower risk of getting Parkinson's disease, the second most common neurodegenerative disorder. Number 8. Coffee may protect your liver. Your liver is an amazing organ that carries out hundreds of important functions. Several common diseases primarily affect the liver, including hepatitis, fatty liver disease, and many others. Many of these conditions can lead to cirrhosis, in which your liver is largely replaced by scar tissue. Interestingly, coffee may protect against cirrhosis. People who drink 4 or more cups per day have up to an 80% lower risk. Coffee drinkers have a much lower risk of cirrhosis, which can be caused by several diseases that affect the liver. Number 9. Coffee can fight depression and make you happier. Depression is a serious mental disorder that causes a significantly reduced quality of life. It's very common, as about 4.1% of people in the US currently meet the criteria for clinical depression. In a Harvard study published in 2011, women who drank 4 or more cups of coffee per day had a 20% lower risk of becoming depressed. Another study in 208,424 individuals found that those who drank 4 or more cups per day were 53% less likely to die by suicide. Coffee appears to lower your risk of developing depression and may dramatically reduce suicide risk. Number 10. Coffee may lower risk of certain types of cancer. Cancer is one of the world's leading causes of death. It is characterized by uncontrolled cell growth in your body. Coffee appears to be protective against 2 types of cancer, liver and colorectal cancer. Liver cancer is the 3rd leading cause of cancer death in the world, while colorectal cancer ranks 4th. Studies show that coffee drinkers have up to a 40% lower risk of liver cancer. Similarly, one study in 489,706 people found that those who drank 4-5 cups of coffee per day had a 15% lower risk of colorectal cancer. Liver and colorectal cancer are the 3rd and 4th leading causes of cancer death worldwide. Coffee drinkers have a lower risk of both. Number 11. Coffee does not cause heart disease and may lower stroke risk. It's often claimed that caffeine can increase your blood pressure. This is true, but with a rise of only 3 to 4 mm of mercury, the effect is small and usually dissipates if you drink coffee regularly. However, it may persist in some people, so keep that in mind if you have elevated blood pressure. That being said, studies don't support the idea that coffee raises your risk of heart disease. On the contrary, there is some evidence that women who drink coffee have a reduced risk. Some studies also show that coffee drinkers have a 20% lower risk of stroke. Coffee may cause mild increases in blood pressure, which usually diminish over time. Coffee drinkers do not have an increased risk of heart disease and have a slightly lower risk of stroke. Number 12. Coffee may help you live longer. Given that coffee drinkers are less likely to get many diseases, it makes sense that coffee could help you live longer. Several observational studies indicate that coffee drinkers have a lower risk of death. In 2 very large studies, drinking coffee was associated with a 20% reduced risk of death in men and a 26% decreased risk of death in women, over 18-24 years. This effect appears particularly strong in people with type 2 diabetes. In one 20-year study, individuals with diabetes who drank coffee had a 30% lower risk of death. Several studies show that coffee drinkers live longer and have a lower risk of premature death. Number 13. Coffee is the biggest source of antioxidants for people who eat a with standard diet. Coffee may be one of the healthiest aspects of their diet. That's because coffee is quite high in antioxidants. Studies show that many people get more antioxidants from coffee than from fruits and vegetables combined. In fact, coffee may be one of the healthiest beverages on the planet. Coffee is rich in powerful antioxidants, and many people get more antioxidants from coffee than from fruits and veggies combined. If you like this video, we will be glad if you could give us a thumbs up and see with your comments below and share this video lesson. We hope to see you on the next upload.
Yeah, boy!